Curt Schilling made over $114 million, then lost it all chasing a video game dream. Jose Canseco blew $45 million and ended up living in a garage.
After that, I lived in the garage for 6 months with no money. I remember one time having $20 in my pocket. So I've experienced a lot.
Some players lost their homes, some sold trophies, others even ended up in prison. Here are MLB players who went from millionaires to out broke. Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling's name was once synonymous with clutch performances and World Series heroics. His career, which spanned teams like the Boston Red Sox and Arizona Diamondbacks, was marked by 3 World Series wins, 6 All-Star selections, and over $114 million in salary earnings. When combined with endorsements, his peak net worth reached an estimated $115 million, positioning him as one of the wealthier athletes of his generation. But Schilling's downfall came not from the pitcher's mound, but from the boardroom. In 2006, driven by his passion for gaming and dreams of building a Microsoft-like behemoth, Schilling founded 38 Studios, a video game company that would ultimately consume his fortune.
I'm here on behalf of 38 Studios, which is a software and development company I founded about 1.5 years ago, and this is our second CES. And we're here doing what everybody else is doing, checking out some of the new tech and having a whole lot of meetings.
The ambitious venture saw Schilling invest $50 million of his personal fortune into the company, alongside securing a $75 million loan from Rhode Island in 2010. The company relocated to Providence to develop ambitious projects including Project Copernicus, a massively multiplayer online game intended to rival World of Warcraft, and Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, a single-player RPG that would be released in 2012. Despite the talent and resources invested, the venture was doomed by fundamental business mistakes. Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning sold 1.3 million copies, falling short of the 2 million needed to break even. The NAL collapse came swiftly and dramatically. The company led for bankruptcy on June 7, 2012, with debts totaling over $150 million. Schilling's personal loss was estimated at $60 million, leaving him tapped out financially. The legal battles that followed only deepened his financial woes. In November 2012, Rhode Island led a civil suit against Schilling and 13 others, ultimately settling in 2017 for $61 million, with $38 million paid by public funds. The human cost was equally devastating. 38 Studios laid all 379 employees in 2012 without NAL paychecks, with employees receiving only 14–20% of owed salaries nearly a decade later. While Schilling lost his money chasing tech ventures, the next player's downfall wasn't just financial, it was criminal, and it shattered far more than a bank account. Lenny Dickstra. Leonard Kyle Dickstra's MLB career from 1985 to 1996 brought in over $24 million, with additional income boosting his wealth significantly. His post-retirement business acumen initially seemed promising, as he sold a chain of car washes for $51 million, pushing his net worth to $58 million by 2008. But Dickstra's ambitions extended far beyond his playing career earnings. His ventures into media and real estate would prove to be his undoing. In 2008, he launched the Players Club magazine, targeting athletes with luxury content. The publication featured interviews with celebrities like Jack Nicholson and Derek Jeter, but was plagued by financial mismanagement from its inception. The magazine's failure was spectacular and well documented. The venture faced approximately 12 lawsuits, including a $250,000 unpaid loan to a literary agent and $7,000 bounce check to Halcyon Jets. OCE rent at 245 Park Avenue cost $30,000 per month before being shut for back rent, while the company owed Getty Images approximately $40,000 for photography. Simultaneously, Dickstra's real estate investments crumbled. In 2007, he purchased Wayne Gretzky's $18.5 million mansion in Thousand Oaks, California, hoping to IP the property. Instead, foreclosure papers were led in March 2009. Other properties were described as unshowable due to toxic mold, water damage, and missing toilets. The financial collapse was swift and devastating. Dykstra led for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in July 2009, listing $50,000 in assets against liabilities ranging from $10 million to $50 million. His personal items became casualties of his financial ruin. His Gulfstream II airplane was impounded in Cleveland for unpaid $228,000 in interior renovations, while he auctioned his 1986 World Series ring for $56,762 in October 2009. The legal troubles multiplied alongside his financial woes. In April 2011, he was charged with bankruptcy fraud, concealment of assets, and money laundering, accused of hiding and selling over $400,000 worth of items from his mansion. He pleaded guilty on July 13, 2012, and was sentenced to 6.5 months in federal prison. Additional charges, including grand theft auto, identity theft, and drug possession, led to a 3-year state prison sentence.
What are you doing?
You've been placed under arrest.
For what?
We'll explain everything in a minute, man.
While Dickstra lost money chasing business deals he didn't fully understand, the next player's financial troubles were more personal, shaped by divorce and a lifestyle that quickly became too expensive to maintain. Jose Canseco. Jose Canseco's story represents one of baseball's most dramatic falls from grace. His MLB career from 1985 to 2001 brought in about $45 million in salary, with a peak of $5.8 million in 1995 with the Boston Red Sox. However, the financial realities of professional sports proved more complex than his impressive statistics might suggest. The erosion of Canseco's wealth began with his 2 divorces, which cost him an estimated $7 to $8 million each, totaling $14 to $16 million. Beyond these major expenses, Canseco's lifestyle choices proved unsustainable. He spent heavily on luxury items, including 2 six-gear sports cars, and supporting family and friends, which he mentioned as significant drains on his finances.
After that, I lived in the garage for 6 months with no money. I remember one time having $20 in my pocket. So I've experienced a lot.
His investment strategies proved equally disastrous. He lost significant money on bad investments, particularly property related to his book Juiced. The financial collapse culminated in major asset losses. He lost his $2.5 million, 7,300 square foot mansion in Encino, California, to foreclosure in May 2008. It also didn't help when NBC Sports California cut ties with him after he posted a series of bizarre tweets about sexual harassment. Legal troubles also added to his financial strain. His daughter, Josie Canseco, claimed there was no child support, no payments, nothing, indicating Canseco's inability to afford support payments. She stated that, "My family money was blown by the time I was 6-7 with bankruptcy, and I had to work my to not only sustain my family name, but also pay my bills because N1 paid that except me." Today, he makes ends meet by selling autographed memorabilia, including his 1986 AL MVP trophy. Canseco's money problems came from personal choices and overspending, but the next player's story started earlier and took a darker turn that eventually led to prison. Denny Mlan. Denny Mlan's MLB career achievements were extraordinary. He became the last pitcher to win 30 or more games in a single season with his 31-6 record in 1968, earning him both the Cy Young Award and American League MVP that year. During his peak earning years, Mlan earned roughly $200,000 per year at his peak, with significant OL'd income including at least $100,000 from television appearances and endorsements in 1968. In 1970, he became the RST $100,000 player in Detroit Tigers history, highlighting his peak financial status. However, Mlan's financial troubles began early in his career and escalated dramatically over the decades. In 1970, he led for bankruptcy with debts of $446,069 and assets of $413, claiming in his petition that all problems were due to poor business decisions. He led for bankruptcy again in 1977, indicating ongoing financial struggles. The root causes of Mlan's downfall were multifaceted. A lawyer stealing his money and fleeing to Japan contributed significantly to his financial collapse. His business ventures consistently failed, including a big-screen television business, a bar, walk-in medical clinics, and serving as general manager for the Memphis Blues, which went bankrupt in the mid-1970s. But Mlan's most devastating financial blow came from criminal activities. In 1967, he invested $15,000 in a bookmaking operation and was involved with the Syrian mob. In the mid-1980s, he was convicted on federal racketeering charges involving gambling and cocaine tracking. He was sentenced to 23 years in 1985, but was released after 30 months when his convictions were overturned in 1987. The criminal activities escalated in the 1990s. In 1993, Mlan bought Peat Packing, a meat processing company, which went bankrupt by 1995. He was convicted of embezzling $3 million from the Peat Packing Pension Fund, along with charges of embezzlement, money laundering, mail fraud, and conspiracy. Mlan was sentenced to 8 years in 1996 for his 1993 convictions, serving over 6 years and being released in 2003. Mlan got into trouble through risky ties and illegal activity. The next player faced a direct kind of downfall, one driven by addiction and mounting debts, with the IRS not far behind. Daryl Strawberry. Daryl Strawberry's earned a total of $30,615,000 during his 17-season MLB career from 1983 to 1999, with his peak contract being a V-year, $25 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1990, equivalent to $43.65 million today. The foundation of Strawberry's financial collapse was laid by substance abuse issues that plagued his career and personal life. He was suspended 3 times by MLB for substance abuse, which affected his career earnings and reputation. In 1999, he was arrested for soliciting and possession of cocaine, leading to a 120-day suspension.
Well, I got introduced to it in LA. You know, Hollywood, you know, the scenery of parties and stuff like that. You get introduced to all the drugs and stuff, and I end up in all the wrong places.
The most devastating blow to Strawberry's wealth came from tax problems. Strawberry underpaid his federal income taxes by $542,572 between 1987 and 1990. The consequences were severe and lasting. The IRS auctioned all future payments from his deferred Mets contract, which was paying him $36,681 per year to cover his tax debt, leaving him with no further payments from this source. Personal relationships also took a financial toll. Strawberry had 3 marriages, with divorces in 1993 and 2006 likely costing significant settlements. In 2000, he owed his ex-wife Lisa $22,000 in back child support with no income or savings, and was required to pay $3,186 on monthly. This financial burden came at a time when he was particularly vulnerable. Strawberry's reactions on his struggles show personal accountability. When I look in the mirror, I look at the enemy. There is no one to blame for this but myself. I should have bought myself a mirror a long time ago. He also expressed regret about career decisions. I have a lot of regrets about what I've done. If I had to do it over again, I never would have left the Mets. Strawberry's struggles began in his 20s. The next player faced similar battles, but they started even earlier and followed him all the way to suspension, foreclosure, and bankruptcy. Dwight Gooden. Dwight "Doc" Gooden earned approximately $36,035 during his 16-season MLB career, playing for teams like the New York Mets and New York Yankees. His peak earnings came from high-value contracts in the late 1980s and early 1990s, with notable salaries like $5,916,667 in 1993. Gooden's struggles with substance abuse began tragically early and persisted throughout his life. His cocaine and alcohol addiction started at age 12 and significantly derailed both his career and Nancy's.
Over 20 years, I battled drugs and alcohol, where I would get clean for a while, and I would go back. And a big reason for that was I wanted to change everything I didn't want to use, I didn't want to drink, but I wanted to keep the same lifestyle. And what I mean by that, I still want to hang out at the clubs, I still want to hang with the same people that use, and think I can do something differently. But every time, it's just a matter of time before it caught up with me.
In 1987, he tested positive for cocaine during spring training, leading to a suspension for the RST 2 months of the season. He tested positive again in 1994, resulting in a 60-day suspension, and was later suspended for the entire 1995 season due to repeated violations. The financial consequences were severe and multifaceted. Each suspension meant lost salary and reduced earning potential, with the 1995 season suspension particularly devastating as he earned no salary that year. Legal troubles compounded his financial problems. In 2006, he was arrested for violating probation after arriving at a meeting under the influence of cocaine, leading to 7 months of incarceration. In 2019, he was arrested for cocaine possession, pleading guilty and receiving 1 year of probation. The culmination of Gooden's financial troubles came with major asset losses. In 2008, his home in Holmdel, New Jersey, was foreclosed upon due to unpaid taxes and other debts, as he owed more than $300,000 in back taxes. In 2010, he led for bankruptcy, listing debts of more than $1 million, including back taxes, child support, and other obligations, while his assets at the time were less than $50,000. Gooden's public statements revealed the depth of his financial struggles. In a 2010 ESPN interview, he said, "I'm broke. I have nothing. I have to start over," highlighting his dire financial state after bankruptcy. In 2011, he told the New York Daily News, "I was making a lot of money, but I was spending it just as fast. I didn't save anything, and I didn't invest wisely. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and when the money stopped coming in, I had nothing left." His peak net worth was approximately $36 million based on his career earnings, but current estimates place his net worth at $300,000, representing a loss of nearly 99% of his wealth. Gooden's troubles came from substance abuse that started early. The next player faced a different kind of addiction, gambling, and it cost him far more than he ever expected. Cecil Fielder. Cecil Fielder earned approximately $47 million in salary during his MLB career from 1985 to 1998, including a V-year $35 million contract with the Detroit Tigers signed in 1990, one of the largest in MLB history at the time. His peak net worth was estimated at around $16 million. Fielder's downfall was primarily attributed to his gambling addiction, which led to catastrophic losses at casinos across the country. In February 1999, he lost $580,000 in just 2 days at the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. This single incident exemplified a pattern of destructive gambling behavior that had been ongoing for years. Court documents from his divorce and a lawsuit by Trump Plaza Hotel and Casinos described extensive debts to various casinos, credit card companies, and banks. A 2004 article detailed species gambling losses, noting that in February 1999, he lost $50,000 in a day and a half at Trump Plaza and was given another $25,000 line of credit, indicating ongoing financial strain and the casino's willingness to extend credit to a known high-risk gambler. Despite overwhelming evidence of his gambling problems, Fielder publicly denied having an addiction. In a 2008 interview with ESPN, he stated, "Gambling has never been a temptation for me," claiming that his casino visits were more about enjoying perks like free stays rather than compulsive gambling. Fielder's response to media coverage of his gambling problems created additional legal expenses. In response to the Detroit News Report in October 2004, Fielder led a libel suit against the newspaper and its parent company, Gannett, seeking $25 million in damages and fees. However, the trial court dismissed the suit, and the Michigan Court of Appeals armed the dismissal in 2004, likely incurring significant legal fees while adding to his financial burden. The most telling sign of Fielder's financial distress came through asset sales. In March 2008, Fielder listed his Florida mansion for sale at $558 million. However, it sold in June 2010 for just $276 million, representing a loss of over $4 million and suggesting he was under severe financial pressure. Fielder's relationship with his son, Prince, was also strained by financial disputes. Cecil was initially involved in negotiating Prince's MLB contract with the Milwaukee Brewers, but a disagreement arose over whether Cecil should receive a typical agent's fee, leading to years of estrangement. By 2012, Cecil and Prince had reconciled, with Cecil stating, "We've recently begun speaking again, and our relationship is improving." After retiring from MLB, Fielder took on managerial roles in minor leagues, including managing the Charlotte County Reds in 2007 and joining the advisory board of the Torrington Titans in March 2011. These positions reacted a dramatic shift from his high-earning MLB career to lower-paying roles, indicating his reduced financial status. Fielder lost his fortune slowly at the casino tables. The next player's downfall happened in an instant, one terrible decision that ruined his career, finances, and personal life. Vince Coleman. Vince Coleman's financial downfall stemmed from a single moment of monumentally poor judgment that had lasting legal and financial consequences. Coleman earned approximately $16.06 million in salary during his 13-season MLB career, with his peak contract being a 4-year, $11.95 million deal with the New York Mets in 1991. The incident that destroyed Coleman's reputation and finances occurred on July 24, 1993, after a game at Dodger Stadium.
Vince Coleman threw a firecracker out of his car in Los Angeles yesterday. Eric Davis says this: the firecracker allegedly landed near some baseball fans who were looking for autographs.
The explosion injured 3 people, a 33-year-old woman, an 11-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old girl, Amanda Santos, who suffered injuries to her eye, cheek, and injure. The legal consequences were immediate and severe. Coleman was initially charged with a felony for unlawful possession of an explosive device, though he pleaded guilty to a reduced misdemeanor charge on November 5, 1993. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation, a $1,000 knee, and 200 hours of community service. The Santos family led a lawsuit against Coleman, the Mets, and the Dodgers, seeking unspecified damages. The lawsuit was settled out of court, with Coleman reportedly paying a significant sum to the Santos family, though exact figures were not publicly disclosed. Legal fees and settlement payments likely drained a substantial portion of his career earnings. The incident had immediate career consequences. The recracker incident led to Coleman's suspension by the Mets and marked the end of his tenure with the team. On August 26, 1993, the Mets announced he would not return in 1994, citing his lack of head and heart and belly. Coleman's reputation was further damaged by other controversies during his career. He was investigated in a allegation in Port St. Lucie, Florida in 1992, though no charges were led. His OL'd behavior, including connects with coaches and managers, such as physically shoving Mets manager Jay Torborg in 1993, further damaged his reputation. After the incident, Coleman's earning potential plummeted. He was traded to the Kansas City Royals at the end of the 1993 season, but his career continued to decline due to injuries and a tarnished reputation. Subsequent stints with the Mariners, Reds, and Tigers owed significantly lower salaries than his Mets contract. Post-retirement, Coleman's opportunities were limited by his reputation. He worked as a base running instructor for the Chicago White Sox in 2015 and as a minor league base running and out-eld coach for the San Francisco Giants in 2017. These roles were likely not as lucrative as his playing career, re-acting his reduced Nancial status. The personal cost extended to family relationships. His daughter, Taylor Coleman, spoke about his absence from her life in a 2023 X post, stating, "He has not once reached out to me. He has only reached out to the people who have interviewed me and demanded they take down the interviews because he's scared and embarrassed that I'm telling the truth," suggesting strained family relations that may re-act ongoing Nancial and personal struggles. Coleman's reputation fell apart after one reckless act. The next player's decline was slower, but just as costly. A reminder that even champions can lose it all through poor money choices. Levan Hernandez. Levan Hernandez earned over $53 million during his 17-season MLB career from 1996 to 2012, playing for 9 different teams and achieving significant milestones, including being named MVP of the 1997 World Series. His peak salary was $8 million in 2005 with the Washington Nationals. Despite these substantial earnings, Hernandez's Nancial management proved catastrophically inadequate. On June 30, 2017, he led for Chapter 13 bankruptcy in federal court in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, revealing the extent of his Nancial troubles. The bankruptcy Ling painted a stark picture of Nancial collapse. At the time of Ling, his assets were worth less than $50,000, while his liabilities ranged between $500,000 and $1 million. He owed up to $1 million to as many as 50 creditors, including credit card companies, banks, and the IRS. One of the most telling aspects of Hernandez's case was a specific debt that highlighted his Nancial desperation. He owed $220,000 to a local businessman, German Cano Rodriguez, who had loaned him money in 2013 to help pay bills. This loan was never repaid, as noted in a lawsuit led by Rodriguez, indicating that Hernandez had been struggling Nancially for years before his formal bankruptcy Ling. The debt to the IRS suggests that back taxes were a significant component of his Nancial problems, though the exact amount owed to federal authorities was not specified in available sources. This pattern of tax debt has been common among many Nancially troubled athletes, often stemming from inadequate Nancial planning during high-earning years. What makes Hernandez's case particularly notable is the apparent lack of significant post-retirement income. His last MLB contract was with the Milwaukee Brewers in 2012, earning him $750,000. There are no reports of significant post-retirement jobs, endorsements, or investments in the available sources, suggesting he did not have substantial income streams after his playing career ended in 2012. Hernandez lost his money through poor Nancial choices, but the next player's story goes far beyond money. His actions led to serious criminal charges and decades behind bars. Mel Hall. Mel Hall earned approximately $10,380,000 during his professional baseball career, including $6,380,000 from his MLB career 1985, 1992, 1996, and $4 million from a 2-year contract in NPB with the Chiba Lotte Marines and Chunichi Dragons 1993-1995. During his playing days, Hall was known for his lavish lifestyle, including owning 15 cars and using a limousine for transportation, indicating significant personal spending that likely consumed much of his earnings. Hall's Nancial situation became irrelevant when his criminal activities came to light, actively ending any possibility of post-career income. On June 21, 2007, Mel Hall was arrested in Lewisville, Texas, and charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. During the investigation, a second victim, under the age of 14, was identified, with one of the victims being 12 at the time of the assault. On June 16, 2009, Hall was convicted on 3 counts of aggravated sexual assault of a child and 2 counts of indecency with a child. On June 17, 2009, he was sentenced to 45 years in prison with a minimum of 22 years and 4 months. He is currently serving his sentence at H.H. Cole Unit in Tennessee Colony, Texas, with his earliest possible parole date being November 15, 2031. The personal cost extends far beyond Nancy's. During his trial, his defense attorney attempted to discredit one of the victims by noting that her parents believed Hall was not actually involved with her until she was 18, despite sharing a bedroom, but these eorts proved unsuccessful against the evidence presented. Hall's story is one of crime and deep disgrace. The next player didn't break the law, but he lost everything by trusting the wrong people in one of the biggest frauds in US history. Scott Eyre. Scott Eyre's Nancyal destruction came from his investment with Alan Stanford, who was later convicted of running an $8 billion Ponzi scheme that defrauded about 18,000 investors. In February 2009, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, began investigating Stanford Financial Group, leading to the freezing of assets for many investors, including Eyre. On February 25, 2009, ESPN reported that Eyre's cash out was disrupted, with all his assets frozen, except for one bank account with $3,000. He was also unable to use credit cards linked to Stanford, further limiting his Nancyal resources. This sudden freezing of assets left a millionaire athlete with virtually no access to his wealth. The situation was so dire that Eyre had to seek emergency Nancyal assistance from his team. The Philadelphia Phillies agreed to give him a salary advance to help him manage his immediate Nancyal needs. In a 2009 ESPN interview, Eyre jokingly said, "I think they know I'll pay them back," when discussing the Phillies' salary advance, re-acting his Nancyal strain while trying to maintain some levity about the situation. Eyre also showed concern for other victims of the scheme. He expressed empathy for fellow investors, saying, "I'm concerned about the other people who invested with Stanford and don't have the same kind of financial help I do," indicating his awareness that many victims had far fewer resources to weather the Nancyal storm. The investment came through what appeared to be a trusted source. Eyre invested through a broker who was a former teammate, indicating he trusted the Nancyal advice based on personal relationships rather than thorough due diligence. This trust was ultimately misplaced, as the broker was connected to Stanford's fraudulent operation. Stanford was convicted in 2012 and sentenced to 110 years in prison for orchestrating the Ponzi scheme. Despite the conviction, many investors, including Eyre, likely never recovered their full losses due to the scale of the fraud and the difficulty of asset recovery in Ponzi scheme cases. Eyre's losses came from being scammed. The next player wasn't tricked. He simply made one bad investment after another, turning a Hall of Fame career into a Nancyal cautionary tale. Raleigh Fingers. Raleigh Fingers' Nancyal downfall stemmed from a series of poor investment decisions across multiple sectors. He invested in real estate, including a 5,000-square-foot house in El Cajon, California, a condominium in Palm Springs, 120 acres of land in Arizona, and a 10-acre pistachio orchard in Madera, California. He also made investments in wind turbines that did not yield returns. Perhaps most notably, he purchased Arabian horses for $225,000, which did not appreciate in value. Additionally, he invested in Hawaiian timeshares that failed. The cumulative EECT of these failed investments was devastating. In March 1989, Fingers led for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing assets worth less than $50,000 and liabilities exceeding $1 million. Total creditor claims amounted to $4.2 million, with 108 direct creditors, including banks, travel agencies, the IRS, aurists, cable TV companies, and automobile dealerships. The bankruptcy forced Fingers to liquidate virtually all his assets. He was forced to sell his house, cars, condominium, land, orchard, and investments in timeshares, wind turbines, and Arabian horses. The comprehensive nature of these asset sales illustrates the completeness of his Nancyal collapse. Tax problems compounded Fingers' difficulties. He owed the state of Wisconsin more than $1.4 million in income taxes dating back to his time with the Milwaukee Brewers, including $1.1 million in interest. He disputed the claim, stating that taxes were properly withheld from his Brewers' paychecks, and the issue was resolved by August 15, 2007, with him confirming that's all been taken care of. The lifestyle impact of Fingers' bankruptcy was profound and lasting. Post-bankruptcy, he took a desk job that paid less than $50,000 a year, representing a dramatic drop from his MLB earnings and re-acting the severe impact on his Nancyal stability. Fingers was candid about the long-term consequences of his Nancyal decisions. In a 1991 interview, he re-acted on his Nancyal struggles, saying, "Once you leave for bankruptcy, your credit is shot. No one's going to loan me money for a house. No one's going to give me a loan for a car. I can't even get a credit card." You try not to think about it, but when you do, you look back and just think how stupid you were. Fingers lost money in risky but legal ventures. The NAL player's fall was much worse. His crimes hurt others deeply, showing that some mistakes go far beyond money. Chad Curtis. Curtis earned approximately $12,179,000 during his MLB career from 1992 to 2001, with his peak salary being $2,000 in 1999 and $2,000 during his championship years with the New York Yankees. Curtis's downfall began with criminal charges that emerged years after his retirement. In 2013, he was convicted of assaulting 3 underage female students while volunteering as a weight room trainer at Lakewood High School in Lake Odessa, Michigan. The assaults occurred between 2011 and 2012 under the guise of performing therapeutic massages. On October 3, 2013, Curtis was sentenced by Barry County Circuit Court Judge Amy McDowell to 7 to 15 years in prison for 6 counts of criminal sexual conduct. He served the minimum sentence of 7 years and was paroled on September 22, 2020. The financial impact of Curtis's conviction was immediate and severe. In June 2017, Curtis's victims settled a civil lawsuit against Lakewood Public Schools for $575,000. In September 2017, Curtis entered into settlements with 3 of his 4 victims for $10,000 each. The 4th victim took him to trial, and in October 2017, she was awarded a $1.8 million judgment against him in federal court. Curtis and his ex-wife attempted to shield assets from creditors through what appeared to be fraudulent transfers. To avoid paying the $1.8 million judgment, Curtis allegedly transferred nearly all his assets to his ex-wife, Candace Curtis, during their divorce proceedings. In recorded prison phone calls, Candace Curtis stated, "I'm trying to keep things out of victims' hands," and discussed shielding assets from the victims and the state of Michigan. The attempt to shield assets through bankruptcy proved unsuccessful. On June 25, 2018, Candace Curtis led for bankruptcy, claiming assets between $500,000 and $1 million and liabilities of less than $50,000. In January 2019, a federal judge dismissed Candace Curtis's bankruptcy petition, ruling that it was led in bad faith to avoid the judgment. The judge noted that the couple had discussed shielding their assets in prison calls, and the dismissal meant that their assets could still be pursued to satisfy the judgment. Curtis himself did not leave for bankruptcy, but the failure of his ex-wife's petition eliminated their strategy for asset protection. In the end, their stories serve not just as entertainment or cautionary tales, but as profound reminders of our shared humanity. Behind every statistic, every contract, and every bankruptcy ling is a human being who made choices, some good, some catastrophically bad, that shaped not just their own destiny, but the lives of everyone around them. With that, we've come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, then you're in luck, because you can click on any of the cards showing on your screen right now to watch much more exciting content like this one.